Good morning, friends. It's good to be here this morning. Welcome. Sometimes in the morning, I find first thing awakening that I'm sort of pinned to the bed in a bit of anxious paralysis, right? Um, whether it's being in a really comfortable state, knowing you have to get into an uncomfortable state right away. It's cold in the morning. Uh, you're cozy, you're in your bed, and that knowing that you have to make that next step that's going to be uncomfortable, the cold floor on your feet, the cold toilet seat, whatever it is, uh, there's something there that makes it difficult. And then some days that thing that makes it difficult is not what's in the room, but what's inside of our inner space. A lot of times, I think this may be a morning emotional hangover from racing thoughts that many of us have right at bedtime. And, in the Western culture that I'm a part of, that if you're listening to this, most likely you're aware of at least, many of us have our phones all of the time. And it's not uncommon to get ready for bed, do all of your evening things, lay down in your bed, get in your blankets, and sit on your phone scrolling social media or reading emails, returning messages, shopping on Amazon, whatever it is. Uh, it's not uncommon to spend the last waking moments of our day living outside of our own bodies through this portal in our hand that is food for thoughts. Like it's feeding, it's priming the pump of your brain to work in all sorts of directions, and oftentimes those directions are gravitated towards fear, right? um, most of us, the algorithm points us right back into division. um, it takes us away from any sense of well-being in the world and takes us into a place of scarcity. And these are the last waking images that we see. These are the last waking thoughts that we have. So our conscious state is still wrapped in this world of externalizing our fear, our anger, our joy, our love, our hatreds, all of these things. They're becoming externalized. There's now a looming threat from outside of who we think we are. So it makes sense to me that the natural consequence of that would be to wake up with anxiety. If I laid down in bed with a bottle of tequila and inebriated myself right at bedtime with 4, 5, 6 shots of tequila, I would probably wake up with a little bit of a hangover. I would probably wake up dehydrated and my body wouldn't feel good and it wouldn't want to function properly. So if we can consider the things that we're doing by allowing these outside entities, like and that's a very strange thing to say even of itself, the outside entities, but these forces of the corporate world who have manufactured and created these social media platforms as a tool of advertisement and um, marketing and monitoring sales and monitoring market values, it becomes uh, easier to understand why it is that so much money is poured into these programs. Um, and if we can understand that it has a very similar effect to that bottle of tequila, this inebriation of the body that the tequila has, this is what these algorithms are doing with our minds, I believe. They get us into an altered state of consciousness right at bedtime. And so then we wake in the morning and some of us are sort of pinned to the bed with anxiety. And maybe this affects people whether or not you're on social media. And I'm certainly not making my phone the scapegoat. Uh, I'm not making Facebook the scapegoat or social media. But there is responsibility where responsibility is due. And I think that oftentimes in the realm of spiritual, like the sphere of spiritual discussions, we often want to bring everything back to the personal experience and interpretation of the world. But I think that that's tragically missing a very large aspect of who we are. We are social creatures, right? Um, we are meant to be gathering in these ways. And if we're meant to be gathering in these ways, then we do have a responsibility. We have responsibilities to provide the best loving care that we can provide. And that includes for ourselves. So when I'm lying there in the morning, pinned to my bed with anxiety, it may be a hangover from what I put into my mind the night before. And even without the phone, I have this wonderful ability to recount every embarrassing thing I've ever said in my life right at bedtime. So if we don't have a practice, then the practices that we do have, the unintentional practices, will take over. If we can understand that that is a practice, that getting into bed with our phone is a practice, that negative self-talk is a practice, that fearful playing out of scarcity stories in our head, that's a practice. Um, Telling ourselves and believing that we are not capable or we're not good enough or we're not um, qualified, that's a practice. So if we don't have an intentional practice to balance this or to create ways of seeing the world and ourselves in a empowered way, then we're going to be waking up pinned to our bed with anxiety. And this is a natural consequence. Um, and so my practice, once I'm in that state in the morning, has been to gravitate my thoughts towards understanding, compassion, and forgiveness. And I know that that sounds really, oh, you just need to forgive yourself. Well, guess what? No, I'm not talking about forgiving myself because that would be next to impossible. When my mind is set in a certain way of thinking about myself in the negative sense, um, forgiveness of myself and acceptance of myself is very difficult. In fact, I don't even know if it's something I could do in the moment. My our mind, our beliefs are very strong, but I do know that in that moment I do have the ability to forgive someone else. I have the ability to think compassionately and with grace towards someone else. It's that thing that when we can't take care of ourselves, if someone were in need, we could always rise to that occasion, right? We could always help someone in need, even if we're not taking care of ourselves. What we don't often understand in that situation is in taking care of someone else, we are taking care of a part of ourselves. The act of providing love, compassion, understanding, and forgiveness to someone else is an act of self love. It is an act of self care. And in the same way, providing judgment and hatred and fear and blame and shame and guilt towards someone else is an act of providing all of those things to ourselves. Our conscious thinking mind can discern and make judgments, but the neurons that fire in our body cannot. So when we are speaking vitriol and hatred and shame towards someone in our lives or anyone, our mirror neurons are connecting to that and saying, this is what you see in yourself. So my practice then, when I am awakening into a state of anxiety and I just don't find the strength to even put my feet on the floor to get out of bed, it takes a long time to work up and get myself out of bed. The practice is to bring my thoughts to someone who I have difficulty with, someone whom I want to judge and I want to reject and I want to blame or cast shame or guilt upon. And I forgive them in my head. And I think about them and I start to understand why it is they might be making the choices they're making. And I bring myself into a place where my belief about the world is one that shifts from everyone is out for themselves and people are terrible and everyone wants to take from you to people are doing what they can to survive, and sometimes those behaviors that they believe they need to do are really destructive. And if I were in their position and I had their fear and I had their tools and I had their life experience and I had their choices to make, I don't think I would make a different choice. And I'm positive that some of the choices that I have made and do make and will make are going to be ones that cause harm. So if that's the case, then I can provide them grace. And even just inside, just think to myself, maybe they are doing the best they can. Maybe they are doing the best they can. And maybe I can love them even when they're difficult. Because if I can love them when they are difficult, then I can love myself when it is difficult. Because if it's possible that they are doing the best they can even when they make mistakes, then it's possible that I'm doing the best I can even when I have made mistakes. And if I can give them grace and compassion and understanding, then it's possible that I can give myself grace and compassion and understanding. And then the chest starts to open a little bit, and I can find I can breathe out easier, which allows me to breathe in easier. So join me for a few breaths today as we maybe bring into our consciousness, bring into our mind, our thoughts, the image of someone whom we have a difficult time with. Maybe it's someone who has caused us direct pain, or someone who says things that we find to be hurtful or ridiculous. Someone who we want to dissociate ourselves from, whether it's a talking head on the TV, a celebrity, a politician, whether it's a coworker or a neighbor or someone we ran into in the grocery store parking lot that just got under our skin. Whoever it is that you can find right now that you have negative thoughts towards when you think of them, see if you can picture them right now doing something kind and loving, or picture them in need or in fear. Picture them vulnerably expressing pain and reaching out for someone to provide connection. Picture them gently providing love to someone they care about. If it helps to picture them as a child, picture them as a child. Whatever you need to do to open your heart to even them. Breathe in through the nose and out. Straighten the back as much as you can. Make sure your feet, ankles, and knees are not being strained. Gently pull your shoulder blades together just a bit to open the chest. Relax your shoulders and open your heart. You can close your eyes. Relax your jaw. Picture the one you would like to reject and see if you can find even the smallest place in your heart for some part of them. Breathe in gently and release. And we'll begin with a metta meditation to send them love, safety, happiness, and connection. So picture this person in your mind. Even if you're holding judgment, even if you're holding resentment or anger, just picture them in your mind, and you can say this aloud. May you find peace. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you have connection. May you find peace. May you be happy. May you be safe. May you find connection. May you find peace. May you be happy. May you be safe. May you find connection. Breathe in through the nose. And as you breathe out, let them move out of your thoughts. Breathe in again and let them go. Now you can say this aloud. May I find peace. May I be happy. May I be safe. May I find connection. May I find peace. May I be happy. May I be safe. May I find connection. And the Sanskrit mantra for this practice is Lokaha Samastaha Sukhino Bhavantu. Lokaha Samastaha Sukhino Bhavantu. Lokaha Samastaha Sukhino Bhavantu. Breathing in and out through the nose. Let the words that we've spoken reverberate through our body and out to the world and back. Hadi Om. Thank you for joining us today, friends, on the journey home. I hope this practice brings you some relief if you do have anxieties, fears, suffering. And I hope it helps guide us into a kinder and gentler world, just one little bit at a time. Thanks again for being here. Feel free to share any of these around anywhere you'd like that you feel someone else might connect. Hadi Om.